by the page, and that's the official government publication that is published. It doesn't have any research helps. All it does is just report the case as the court decided it. Another set of books that reports Supreme Court decisions is called Supreme Court Reporter. The abbreviation for that is capital S period, capital C, small t period, and it's preceded by the volume number and followed by the page number, as usual, that the case starts on. And it has the key numbers and so forth, like we looked at in the state Supreme Court reporters earlier. It does that same thing, so that can be very helpful. Supreme Court Reports is one of my favorite sets of books. If I have an option of the three, I'll copy from Lawyer's Edition and I'll copy from Supreme Court Reporter. Sometimes what will happen is that legislative intent with regard to the passing of a particular statute that you may be relying upon for relief that you're requesting will come into play. And when that does, you're going to need to know what the legislative intent was in that regard. Now, probably the simplest way to find out what it was is to look at court cases that have been decided regarding that particular statute, where judges have gone and looked it up for you and they cite the particular sections of the U.S. Code, Congressional and Administrative News. Once you get that, then you could go to that set of volumes of books yourself and you could pull it out based on the cite that the judge gets. However, if you're trying to find that out in advance, and no judge has written on that in a decision that you've looked up using Shepard's or something like that, then you may need to look that up yourself. So the best way to do that would be to go to United States Code Service or United States Code Annotated. At the start of the statute, they're going to tell you the source of the law, and that's going to send you to statutes at large. For those of you who remember, the way it works is like this, or I'll help you remember. The statutes at large record laws as they're passed and rescinded by Congress in the order in which it was done over time. The United States Code Service, United States Code Annotated, or United States Code record it based on topics. So they take those and put them all together in one spot based on the different topics. So what you need to do is you need to follow the cite that's in the United States Code Service or Code Annotated back to the statutes at large. In the margin notes of the statutes at large, they will tell you what sections of the United States Code, Congressional and Administrative News, where congressmen and senators discussed those particular bills and what their intentions were with regard to the passing of them. Then, of course, you can go to that set of books and look up their discussions for yourself and see what the legislative intent was. So that is what you'd use U.S. Congressional Administrative News for. With regard to federal law, there are a number of volumes of books that will help you locate the court rulings that are necessary for adjudicating any matters that you might be involved in or want to research. For example, if you were in bankruptcy, you could go to West's Bankruptcy Digest. It's organized just like the Colorado Digest, which we looked at quite in detail, and has its volumes with tables of cases. It has its volumes with keywords. West's Federal Practice Digest arranges all the district and appellate court decisions by topic and by annotations, and then of course it has its separate volumes with keywords and tables of cases, defendant plaintiff tables of cases, and so forth. They're broken out by topic, and each topic has its own table of contents in the front of it. So then you can look down the table of contents till you locate the sections you might be interested in, flip forward real quick to those, and then start reading annotations until you come to cases that talk about a topic that you might, that you're interested in. Another set of books that works exactly the same, but is devoted entirely to Supreme Court decisions from the history of this nation, and that is the Supreme Court Digest. It works exactly the same, but the only thing that is in it is United States Supreme Court decisions. One of the fastest ways to locate the law that's controlling in your circuit and really impress the district court judge or the appellate court judges is by using a Shepard's volume. First thing you need to know is you need to know the Supreme Court decision that's controlling in that area of law. I'll give you an example. I want to know about what kind of rights pretrial detainees have when they're in jail. I found out about a Supreme Court decision called Bell versus Wolfish. Now, the primary discussion in that case was that a pretrial detainee may not be punished in any way prior to conviction. Well, okay, that's fine. That makes sense. Then we go, okay, what is punishment? So what I needed to do then was I grabbed a Shepard's book, I looked up that Supreme Court decision in the Shepard's, and I followed it around, as you can see here, to decisions made in the 10th Circuit where they quoted Bell versus Wolfish. I just went from book to book to book, pulling them off the shelf and reading the little short paragraph at the start, trying to find out what the 10th Circuit had said constituted punishment prior to conviction. And then, once I know that, now I'm ready to influence a judge. And this can also be done for you the same way. I have another case on the validity of a warrant, but it came from the 5th Circuit. So all I do is grab the Shepard's book, look up that case from the 5th Circuit, follow the columns down until I come to the 10th Circuit, and guess what? In all likelihood, you'll find that the 10th Circuit has addressed, discussed, and arrived at a conclusion with regard to the validity of a warrant. And they've either adopted that 5th Circuit decision or else they've rejected it. And if you follow that through, you're going to know that in advance, so you don't have some judge surprising you when he issues his decision. In the course of reading all these court cases that you're going to be looking up with your newfound knowledge, you're probably going to come across a lot of words that you don't understand. For the most part, that can be easily resolved by picking up a copy of Black's Law Dictionary, Ballantyne's, or Bouvier's, and just looking the word up in the dictionary. There are some words that you'll come across that their meanings will not be all that apparent, and I wanted to address a few of those. In the course of writing an opinion, a court will oftentimes make a number of references to the same case. And rather than go into formally citing the entire case reference every time he cites to a case, what he'll do is he'll use words like supra, infra, and id. And the word supra, what will happen is he will probably just cite one word from the case. For example, if you had Committee for the First Amendment v. Nelson, and that was the case he was dealing with, what he might do is he might just put committee, use his word processor to italicize committee, then follow that with a comma, and then if he had previously cited the case above in the case, then what he will write is supra, S-U-P-R-A, at a certain page number. And what that's telling you was, look guys, I cited this case in its entirety previously in this document. If you need the entire site, go back there and look it up. Then what will happen is maybe he will cite another idea that came from that same case, but again, he doesn't want to write the whole thing. And now he can shorten it again by using a little two-letter word called id, I-D. And what that tells you is that means that this idea or thought that's contained in this sentence also came from that case. And so the id sends you to the supra sends you back to the original site where it gave you the volume number and the page number and so forth. Another thing that can happen is that he will be telling you that, look, I'm going to cite this case in its entirety further down in the document. And in that case, what he'll do is he'll say committee, comma, infra, at, and the page number. And what that tells you is that the full site is coming up in the document as you continue to read. Another word that you may not be familiar with is IBID, I-B-I-D. Usually that is used in footnotes, and rather than continue to cite the case over and over again in the footnotes, what they'll do is they'll just, at the end of a sentence, they'll put the footnote, and that you follow that down to the bottom of the page, and the footnote, instead of citing the entire case, will just say IBID, and what that means is it was cited in the last footnote. So just follow it right back up till you get to the last cite that was made in its entirety, and there you will find what you need. Another thing that they'll do oftentimes is they'll use the word ante, A-N-T-E, and what ante means is that this was discussed in this document for the first time, and then it'll be followed by a page number. So if they're on page 26 of the decision, and they're referring to something that took place on page 10, then they'll write ante at 10, and so they're referring back to the earlier page number of the document that you're in. Another little abbreviation that you'll see is et al. Usually that will occur in the case site itself.